Welcome back. COVID-19 has amplified the need in our communities so much that locals have decided to take matters into their own hands to combat issues such as food insecurity. Many have spearheaded initiatives gathering resources and more through grassroots efforts and activism. Joining us now to discuss the Bronx Food Pantry Support Initiative and how community can make a difference is Angela Thomas. Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to talk about the amazing things we have some community members doing.
Of course, I'm excited to have you as well and to hear about all the initiatives that you're spearheading. So first, can we start about learning about you and your work as a workforce development professional and
Yeah.
the Bronx Food Pantry Support Initiative?
Awesome. So I want to say for the past 3.5 years, I've been doing a lot of workforce development in the Bronx, specifically the South Bronx. Previous to my role now, I worked for a program and we did professional development training and placement for individuals who wanted careers in healthcare. And it was one of the leading top healthcare training programs. And so I did a lot of work with young adults around community economic development and professional development. And I want to say that really my passion as a workforce development person, I really believe that economic stability is really, I think is needed, right? When we talk about sustainability in our communities or community economic development, it's really having people who can have access to living wage jobs and hopefully a career. And so that's been the drive purpose for me, or the reason why I do the work that I do. I really believe that a lot of things that our community need can really be if they had access to living wage jobs so they can be more self-sustainable. And I feel like, of course, we know when people start making money, a lot of stuff goes down. Crime goes down, hunger, people have empowerment about themselves, they feel good about themselves, and they're more open to be more civically engaged because they're not worried about paying their bills or eating. And I think sometimes not having a job and the lack of those economic security, it really does push people away from wanting to be a part of change because we feel like we need the help. And so when you're in need, you don't really see yourself being able to help. And so again, I've always been passionate about community, but for me, it really has been about economics and making sure that our community members have the things that they need to survive.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Angela. For sure. I think we're not considering the systemic issues and all the things that we face here and the lack of employment in our areas when we talk about crime and all these things that happen in our community.
Right.
So you did start supporting through the Bronx Food Pantry Support Initiative. Can you tell me about what drove that initiative for you?
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting. It's so organic. So again, my main focus has never been necessarily food. It really was, connecting people with career opportunities and jobs. But during COVID-19 and really after the senseless murder of George Floyd, I really felt like I needed to pull people together and sort of like hold space, just a safe space to talk about how are we feeling, and as people of color, we're dealing with all these, like you said, these systemic issues, but we're also dealing with, like I said, being able to eat, not having a job, and then we have to deal with potentially getting murdered, right? Just for being a person of color. And so with like all these things going around and the Bronx being impacted by COVID-19 more than any other borough in New York. And so I really felt like just unifying people. So I had an idea to do a virtual community activism meeting. And so I did reach out to a few of my previous students that I worked with in the past. And it was interesting because Sonyi, I created this long lesson plan. It was going to be like a lesson. And I call her auntie. She's one of my elders as an activist, and she's been doing so much good work in her many years. She spoke to me right before the meeting and she says, Angela, you're not the teacher in this. You're a community member who's just trying to convene community members. Throw away that agenda. Let it come organically. What do the people want? You're not teaching right now. This is not a class. We don't have time for that. And it hit me because I consider myself an activist, and I thought you had to have, had prepared, and I want to have leading questions and activities. And she's like, people just want to talk and feel heard. And so I did that. I scrapped my agenda and I said, look, how do we feel? What do we want to do? What can we do? And an alarming agreement, everyone agreed to do or to address food insecurity. And again, since that wasn't something I always worked towards, it really blew me by surprise. I'm like, I thought we were going to talk about, there's a lot of jobs that are hiring right now and people are unemployed. Let's talk about unemployment rates. And they were like, no, people need to eat. And this is true. 53% of New Yorkers I apologize. There's a 53% increase in New Yorkers actually going and using food pantries. And this was like an alarming rise. And we know this in the Bronx, food insecurity has been something that we dealt with pre-COVID-19, unemployment rates, high unemployment. This is pre-COVID-19. So long story short, after that meeting, I was like, you know what, we're going to focus on food insecurity. I actually had a relationship with the Power, Praise, and Deliverance Food Pantry, and they've been doing amazing work for the past 8 years. They have a food pantry that operates out of a school on Fordham. They're at 120 East 184th Street. And every Friday from 9 to 3, they've been having this food pantry. I really like this particular food pantry because I feel like they're really strategic with their hours. They chose Friday because they understood that most families of children depend on school lunch Monday through Friday. And it's that weekend sometimes can be really hard. So they're like, you know what? We're going to supplement the school lunch programs and offer our pantry for Friday for the weekend. So I connected with them and I was like, you know, what do you need? Is it food? Is it money? And so long story short, we decided to create the Bronx Food Support Initiative fundraiser campaign where we're raising money to help supplement the food in which they've already been getting. The goal for this to be sustainable, the money raised, we're going to be donating it to the pantry, but after we're going to keep the fundraiser going into the end of the year, and we're going to, you know, really talk to people who donated to make that a practice, like a monthly practice, so it can be sustainable. And the ultimate goal for this is to really reach out to various communities and have them do these small fundraisers as well for their community. I feel like this particular time I have people donate from all over the Bronx, but I feel like people might be more inspired to donate to a food pantry that directly impacts their neighborhood, their communities. And so I thought, wouldn't it be amazing that small people can get together and just do these simple campaigns? And sometimes people can't donate money, they need volunteers as well. So it's just really the spirit of people just doing it and not feeling like nonprofits or politicians are the gatekeepers to community engagement, because this is not true. So I think that's really the heart behind this movement.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Angela. And as we see in our communities, pantry lines are ridiculously long. People do need the food, you know. There are people in our communities that need this and are still suffering from food insecurity through COVID-19. So thank you for assisting and for helping those food pantries get the resources that they need to give back to the community. Can you share just some steps for like someone who may be thinking about participating in something like this or starting their own initiative in their community? Because I know, like you said, food insecurity is not your specialty. You weren't coming into this thinking that this is what you were going to start addressing, but you did it. And because this is where the need is, and you listen to the community, this is the, you know, what business owners or people were saying that was the biggest need in the community. So what tips can you give for somebody who wants to do the same thing?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned, my lesson in this, is I've always been the person, I want to make sure I'm working for the community, I'm serving the community, but it's really easy for our own desires and our own personal conquest to come into place. I think at this particular point where we are in society, we need justice on all ends. I think it's time for people to really not necessarily 100% let go of whatever they've already started and their passions are, but to really ask the community what they need and just to move forward on that. So I think the first step really is to assess, and we know food is another thing, but maybe start talking about bringing people together and having these focus groups. The beauty about doing everything online now, although we do still suffer from a technology gap, not everybody even has the technology to hold these type of platforms, but it's easier now. We are able to connect with more people. So I'd say the first thing first, there's a lot of different platforms that allow you to have free, either, you know, Zoom, Go Meet, all these different social platforms to have meetings, about 40 minutes. Gather a few people together and ask them simply, what do you want? What do you want to see in your community? What is the most pressing need, you know, during COVID-19 or just during the civil unrest in general? What do we need? And I think after that, if for me, I really found that it was easier at this particular point to ask for financial donations, which was really interesting too, because I felt initially, okay, I'm from the Bronx. I understand that even before COVID-19, the median economic income or household income in the Bronx is $38,000. So, and I also know that we're faced with some of the highest unemployment rates due to COVID. And I want to ask people for money. So I was conflicted at first, like, you know, will people even be able to help? And I think just really reminding people that any amount counts. And just, like I said, I was surprised by the outpour of donations that we got. But it was really, so the steps again, finding a way to convene a few people in your community. It could even be just your family members, right? You don't even need a lot of people. It really just could be you. But I say convene people because, again, you don't want to go off of what you assume the community needs. So first, take a poll. What do we want? What do we want to see happen? If you do want to do anything around supporting food, most food pantries right now really are, they need money. It's easier for them to get money because they can shop the way they know they need to shop. They have very strict guidelines to be able to give out food. So if you do partner with the organization, which is simply calling them and saying, we want to help, they're not turning help down, right? They need volunteers, and they also need people to either donate food or donate money. I had the women in my committee, it's 5 of us, we sat down and wrote 20 people that we knew for sure that would help us and donate. And after that, we, spread it out on, our social media platforms. But it's really just simple, convene and ask, what do you want? That's number one. Number two, really come together and figure out what is the best way to make this happen. Call up local nonprofits, local agencies, because again, they need help. These infrastructures have been here. We do not need to reinvent the wheel at this point. We need to support work that's already being done, because there's a lot of amazing work being done in the Bronx. And I think last thing, do it, and do it with pride and understand. I feel like for me, when it comes to fundraising, to really learn not to take it personal, even though it's extremely hard to take it personal if you're deep rooted in the community. But I feel like the main thing is just to ask, what do we need? And to really devise a plan. It does not have to be this grand thing. I mean, anything helps. And I know a lot of people have been saying this, you need to contribute in your own way. And that's really been what I've been working on. Just how can we contribute in our own way?
Right. And it's super important to do this from the heart. If it's something that comes from the heart, it's not a photo op. You are part of the community and you want to help your people because you are your people. You know what I mean? So I see a lot of times people feel a little wary about seeing politicians participate in certain things because it feels like they're not here on the regular. But once things get rough, they want to be like, you know what? Let me get in here and take this picture. So just putting that out there.
Yes. Thank you.
Angela, speaking of the committee that you've organized, can you share your goal about the Black and Latina Women's Empowerment Committee that you're seeking to organize and grow?
Yeah, so it's always really been a huge thing of mine to just convene, specifically women. I'm a mother, and so I feel like sometimes it's really kind of difficult to connect. There was all these activism movements and rallies that were taking place. And to be completely honest, when everything really started happening in March around the civil unrest in this country, I felt like, I've been doing this work forever in the community, but I can't go out and protest. One, I didn't feel safe, and I have an 8-year-old. If something happens to me, I always thought, who would be my child? So I started to feel really conflicted. Am I not doing my part because I'm not out there on the front lines at this particular moment in history? And so I think for me, wanting to bring women together and find out, okay, well, if you have these different things, you're a mom or you work full time or you're in school, like, I feel like we're talking about civil unrest and food, and a lot of people are just struggling where their kids going to school in September. People have different issues. And so I wanted to bring these women together to find out exactly how we can support each other and how we can support already existing movements here in the Bronx during this time. So it was my idea to kind of formulate a committee, the Black and Latino Women's Empowerment Committee, and it would do just that. My goal for the committee, again, is to come together and reach out to local nonprofits or religious groups or local community groups and find out what is the need. Are we going to be recruiting for volunteers? Are we going to be assisting in fundraising? Like I said, I'm a workforce development professional. Are we teaching free resume, cover letter, interview prep jobs? Are we introducing them to HRs and healthcare? Like really utilizing our assets to move forward already existing initiatives. I feel like so many people decide I have an idea, I want to start something without really assessing how can you help. I feel like it's not always about starting something that makes you a leader. I feel like a lot of the times the community, people need people in the community that's going to support. And then you can talk about creating extra infrastructures once those things are running. Right. Last thing, I think the biggest misconception about the Bronx is that it's a lack of resources. One of the biggest resources in the Bronx is our human capital. There's some of the most amazing, talented, spirited, smart, educated, passionate people here. And I would love my committee to be the convener and to organize those people and sort of put them exactly where they can benefit the most in our communities.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Angela. So about the Praise Power Deliverance Food Pantry, yeah. Is it recurring, and how can people support local food pantries like it that are not backed by large nonprofits?
Awesome. So yes, like I said, they've been in operation for 8 years. They operate every Friday from 9 to 3 p.m. and they're located at 120 East 184th Street. You can actually visit them. They have a webpage on nycservice.org. So nycservice.org. You just type in volunteer opportunities, and then you type in Power, Praise, and Deliverance Food Pantry. On that site, you'll be able to actually contact them directly if you do want to volunteer. If you want to go pick up some food, I will be there. I'm going to be there 2 times in August. If you want to come pick up some food, they're every Friday from 9 to 3. And so people should definitely come down and support either by volunteering, or you can just come get some food. And they also, this particular pantry, they do give out meat, which I think is amazing. It's harder to come by and most pantries don't, but they really do their hardest to give people bags of food that they can create meals with. And I think that's so important. I feel like any pantry giving anything is important at this time, but I feel like those pantries understand that people need things to cook with and to actually have nourishing meals. I felt that's another reason why we partnered with this particular pantry for our first initiative, because they're very mindful about being strategic with the meals they give people, which I thought was amazing.
I think that's amazing as well. Thank you so much, Angela, for your time. You've been amazing, and thanks for sharing that. You know, there are different players and different powers that make up community mutual aid.
Yes.
It's not just people, you know, on the front lines. You can be behind the scenes, gathering people. You can be the healer. You can be everything that, you know, the community needs. There's so many different aspects to doing this work. So thank you for sharing. You've been amazing.
Last thing, if you're interested, so I will be sort of opening, I would like to open this opportunity to more women in the Bronx. And so we're going to be having an information session on August 6th.
Okay.
And August 6th would be the first information session. And if you are interested, you can send me your contact information at BLWEC3862@gmail.com. Again, that's BLWEC3862@gmail.com. I'm going to be having an information session. So if you want to learn more about the Black and Latino Women's Empowerment Committee, how you can support, how you can be involved, or what we have cooking up for the next couple of months, that'd be a really great place to visit and come see us.
Amazing. Thank you, Angela. How can people connect with you as well directly?
The same thing, that same email, BLWEC3862. Again, my name is Angela. They can email me with any questions, or even if you want more information about how you can get some food, because we're actually thinking about doing an asset map of all the food pantries in the Bronx, so people can know by what community you live in, their operation hours, to be just in one succinct place. So that's definitely something we're working on to get out to the community.
And just so our viewers know, this information session is going to be virtual?
This is going to be virtual. It will be held on Zoom. So when you email me that you're interested, I'll be emailing out a Zoom link so you can be able to attend.
Thank you again, Angela.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing. I really appreciate this.
It really was. So again, folks, the Black and Latina Women's Empowerment Committee information session will be taking place on August 6th. You can email Angela at BLWEC3862@gmail.com. That's right below here on the screen. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.